Wadau, you remember that episode tulikuwa nayo na Gor Semalang'o, and when I say eye-opening, I don't mean literally.
Of course. Or less.
Yes, that one. Gor Semalang'o is back with us for another classic episode.
What happens in politics is that my knowledge of politics, I'm not a politician, is that the people who get somebody to power or the kingmakers are normally the first people to be sacrificed.
We're discussing what's happening in the country from the Gen Z protests.
And I hope Gen Z hawatanisalamia.
Most importantly, Gor is sharing perspective on, by the way, what next?
If you don't want Rigiji, you remove him. The Speaker of National Assembly, Wetangula, becomes the president.
So Kenyans, as the Kenyans who are singing Ruto must go, have either the choice of President Rigiji,
yes,
or Honor His Excellency Moses Wetangula,
or the Chief Justice Martha Koome. I don't know. Have you ever heard about the National Youth Council?
Yes, I've heard.
But
the former CEO was a friend. He was my neighbor, actually.
But who is the current?
At some point. I don't even know who the current
is. What's happening.
But people always, now there's sort of an impression that these organizations are mouthpieces for government.
Which was not supposed to be the case. Because there was supposed to be an election from the grassroots up to the national. And then they were supposed to be given a budget.
Like a shadow government for you?
Yes, there was even a creation of a national advisory board to advise the president on youth issues. These are complete. They just ignore.
So if those structures are followed properly,
but they need to address what the national dialogue and reconciliation.
But Gen Z don't trust the formation of such organizations because they feel this concept of leaderless. They feel like it's easy for the government now to buy the people who let's say there are people who've been elected on integrity, right?
Yes.
Elected on merit for an organization like that one. The challenge is what they are saying could be true. It's
but
very easy for those people
to be powers to remove them. You see, that is the beauty of it. Basically, it's I support Gen Z's 120%. They've done what young people in a country should do. Because the country must listen to young people, because the country belongs to young people.
Yes.
The old people who die and go away, the young people have longer period to live. So a country that does not recognize and listen to its young people is destined for distinction, to die a natural death.
So how would an organization, a strong youth organization, work without the interference of government?
First of all, we envisioned, I was part of the National Youth Policy, because then we made a policy. After the policy, then there was what was called the National Youth Council, which was a creation of a National Youth Council.
Yes.
Through an act of parliament. So young people were supposed to elect themselves to the national level, and then if anybody was bought, then you would just remove him. And government was supposed to facilitate.
We have young people who've been elected to parliament under the guise that they will take care of the interest of young people.
That's wrong, because there's no provision in parliament. There's only a nomination slot for a person to be nominated to represent youth in parliament or senate. But there is no slots for young people to be elected members of parliament. There is none. The best attempt was that creation of a National Youth Council, which meant that popular young people were supposed to be elected across, and then they come to the national level to form a National Youth Council. And if their leaders were both, they were supposed to, they can remove them, they can recall them. And it was supposed to be the mouthpiece for young people.
Okay.
And the government has deliberately, because the way we structured it is that it was not easy to be bought. If you were bought, then they would remove you. And we would have leaders across the country who were financed by government. In addition to that, there was then another creation of an advisory board, youth advisory board, to advise the president on issues of youth, and they also including the National Youth Council. So all these were killed, I think, through the Ministry of Youth or something. So they never took it seriously. But where did the rain start beating us?
What before we get to the rain, what was the policy? Like, what was this policy that you created? What was it meant to achieve?
It was supposed to, these voices of youth, it was not supposed to reach where it has reached. Government was supposed to be able to get the feeling, the aspirations of young people and what they wanted done in a more structured manner through their elected representative, not government appointed. But somehow I think they changed the law that they are going to appoint the chairman or something. They diluted the law. The law was that young people must be elected by their own, the young people must elect themselves. And if somebody was compromised, then they had powers to recall him and do a new election. And they were supposed to form a National Youth Council,
Yes.
which has a chair
Yes.
and council members who are elected by young people. And that is financed by government, but
Yes.
was not supposed to, to work for government, but to work for young people. And they had a right to recall them and elect new members.
Which year is this?
This is 2012, 2013, 2012.
Did the government have any reason to fear such an organization?
Yes, they
if it was
had, and
powerful?
that's why they diluted their powers and eventually ended with nothing. I think a very weak National Youth Council, which I don't know whether it exists now, because I've never bothered
It
to
does.
follow. Then it became just another arm of government. That
In
was
terms
not
of
supposed
where the rain started beating us,
Yes.
according to the deputy president, it
Yes.
is the intelligence that failed.
No, apart from the intelligence, because intelligence is just a rumor-mongering outfit, and basically a professional rumor-mongering outfit.
Professional rumor-mongering outfit. I'm
Yes.
told that the intelligence know everything that is happening in every corner of this country at any time.
No, it's unless you use the old system, that the Moi Nyayo system, where they call the special branch, that everywhere people are taking changas, there was somebody. But the ones we have, I think all of them have been diluted by basically picking in the children of the rich, and they lead to sit in those places. Because then intelligence system is such that they should be in the villages and the slums where people live. And it became very difficult. Majority of young people are applying for these jobs and they can't get them. So you can't take a rich kid who lives in Karen or Runda to go and live in Kibra to get you information that you need. It doesn't work like that. You won't gather the intelligence information you want.
So are you saying Moi's intelligence collection or system was more powerful?
Yes, but it was bordering on police state, because you are over-policed, you know?
Yes.
The information, you couldn't even say the word Moi, you could say Emo1. So I think the current one is a bit elitist. I don't think they have failed completely. That could be politics, but it's basically a professional rumor-mongering or gossiping organization, because they listen to what people are saying and then try and analyze and then spread the same to the authorities. So
you have a very different image of what I know
Yes.
NSIS as.
Yes.
I know them, they have like my imagination. This is not backed by facts, but just from my assessment. They have a system that knows what's happening. They have a system, they have a military system of their own. They have capacity. And that's why
there's a military intelligence, and then there's the national security.
They also get credit for the long periods we've enjoyed without terrorist attacks. Like they are responsible for thwarting all that.
They eavesdrop. You know, you're listening. It's a gossip. You know, somebody who gossips, what do? They listen to what people are saying and then they go discuss with others. So it's a professional gossiping body, or gossip gathering body. It helps in a country where we are facing terrorism, but in a democracy like ours, the people are free to say many things.
But we have an existing threat outside our borders in terms of terrorism and terror attacks.
Yes, that, of course, you know, when we were having terror attacks, it was a religious problem, which we tried to address politically, and it wasn't working. I think until they worked with the religious organizations to reduce terrorism, because, you know, not all Muslims are terrorists, but all terrorists are Muslim. Yes, it is. So at that time, when we were facing that problem, that's what we realized. And what happened is that the government worked with religious leaders to ensure that we tone down on religious extremism, which was causing the population, Muslim population, who are Muslims, who are radicalizing youth, using religion.
Okay.
So I think it turned down. They worked, of course, with the agencies who embedded themselves in the that same religions and the areas of those conflicts
And neutralize
solve the problem.
Okay.
But all these problems boils down to a failure by the government to implement what was then the national reconciliation, the national dialogue. The first national dialogue.
This is going back to 2007
and 2008, when Kofi Annan was here in 2008. And we had the conflict, the post-election conflict.
Yes.
And they set up a national dialogue, the first national dialogue and reconciliation.
Yes.
Which was headed by His Excellency Kofi Annan.
Yes.
And they had 4 agendas for long term. One of them was a constitutional review, which we undertook and completed in 2010. That gave us this new constitution that guarantees the fundamental rights of the citizens to picket, demonstrate and present their grievances to the authorities.
Okay.
Which our agencies have now utilized perfectly to put enough pressure.
Without this, the Gen Zs would have seen fire.
Yes, we would have not had this opportunity to put pressure on government to take action.
Okay.
And they will continue to enjoy this. There was also the other agenda about those institutional reforms which were done. So we have other independent offices which were created through the constitution. But we failed on 2, which were very critical. There was poverty and inequality.
Okay.
We were supposed to tackle that in the national dialogue and reconciliation. The inequality gap is still widening every day.
Yes.
And that is what is also causing what is taking place now.
Inequality gap is widening.
It's widening. So the poor are getting poorer and the rich are getting richer. So then that causes a conflict in a country. That was part of the national dialogue and reconciliation.
Yes.
We were supposed to tackle that. They, as soon as they shared power, I think they forgot about it and then made the constitutional review and created other offices.
Yes.
Number 2, and the most critical, was that as a country we were facing a youth bulge. And what it meant that the national reconciliation, the national dialogue and reconciliation under Kofi Annan had suggested that we tackle youth unemployment as a long-term measure. And because successive government, not only Ruto government, even the other successive government tried, but we have not tackled that problem of youth unemployment.
Okay.
Because as long as we have majority of young people who have gone to school and are now educated and don't have jobs, then we are going to have conflict in the country. So that is what we are facing now. We have those we are calling Gen Zs, who are so many. They are unemployed, they are educated, they are hopeless.
So ideas are there that could have ensured that this issue we are facing right now would not have happened.
Exactly.
Right?
And it's not just a Ruto problem.
It's not a Ruto problem.
It's not a Ruto government problem only.
Okay.
Probably he contributed because he's been a part of government before, but it is not. It just did not start with him.
Then we come
because if we sorted that problem, then we would have addressed this problem now.
So whoever became president in the last election would still have faced this problem.
Yes, if they fail to address the issue, which is a youth unemployment.
Could they
remember he also promised to address the same issue of youth unemployment.
Where we got information.
Yes.
Was it possible to address that in the 2 years?
At least 50% of it. With the right policies and the people, the right people in place. As you know, he has been forced to dissolve his cabinet.
Yes.
So it's up to him, the people he will select to serve as cabinet ministers would be able to give him the ideas that would be necessary to address the challenges.
To be president in this country, we can all agree that it's a combination of networks.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, it is.
It's a proper deal-making gig for you to sit on that seat.
Yes, yes.
Right?
Yes.
If you sit on that seat and do an about turn to the people who put you there, you'll have problems. I'll give you an example.
Yes.
Raila Odinga was part of the team that campaigned for President Kibaki. Yes. They get in power and then President Kibaki gets advised not to sit with the politicians if he wants to bring development. What happens next? In 2002, 2007, he sees fire because the politicians changed the narrative on him, right? This is where Baba comes with the Orange Democratic Movement.
Yes.
So did the president have a choice to drop the politicians once he landed the seat?
I don't think that's the case. What happens in politics is that my knowledge of politics, I'm not a politician, is that the people who get somebody to power or the kingmakers are normally the first people to be sacrificed. As we are now, even our situation now, you realize that the people, the kingmakers are the first people that the politicians deal with. I think for some insecurity, I don't know for what reason. In business, those are the people you work with to the end. But in politics, it seems that there is a level of insecurity.
In business, you work with the kingmakers.
Yes, you work with them because then you make more money and you grow richer. But in politics, I think
get rid of them.
You get rid of them immediately. And I think that is what has been happening in our politics. By the way, if you ask me, I don't think our politics is right. And I agree with the Gen Zs 100% that we must rectify our politics. The only missing link in our country is the politics. We are having wrong politics. The Gen Zs have come out to have a tribeless and kind of politics which is going to make a difference in this country. It's the right way to go. If we fix our politics, everything will go right. We are a great country, but our politics is not right.
Here's a theory I've been told.
Yes.
Thank you for that beautiful point.
Yes.
I've had a theory. Yes. I'm tempted to think about it.
Yes.
How government works is that there are people who know the system, right?
Yes.
And someone said on this platform that government is what you don't see.
Yeah.
It's okay on Tata.
Yes.
So now we have, there is this other theory that comes again, that at President Ruto, when he got into power, he got in with new people who don't know how systems work. And they were excited with money. And part of the reason people are antagonized is the open flaunting of wealth and the arrogance and stuff, as in probably people who are corrupted by power. But there are people who know how to eat, that they will never make noise. So it is, the undoing is President Ruto got in with the people who got excited and started making noise.
I don't think so. Partly it's true, is because when he chose his cabinet, there were not people who have been to places. Basically, what we are saying is there are no people who have made it in life. So they took this as an opportunity, appointment letters as an opportunity to make money.
There are people who had not made it in life.
Yes, they don't. If I became a cabinet minister and I'm putting on a watch of 2 million, I was putting 2 million watch even before I became cabinet secretary. And there's always a problem with the population and the society in general, that people know your lifestyle. They know you are living in a certain place, you are driving certain cars before you became a government official. And all of a sudden your lifestyle changes. And it is our money. If you are using first class before, business class in an aeroplane before, and you became a minister, you still use the same. And that's what they've done in the US. When you are copying the kind of cabinet secretaries they appoint, there are people who already have means and who have a name in the society. They are adding value to government. So there's a problem adding value to them. There was a problem on the selection of this cabinet.
There's a problem putting poor people in government.
Not really the poor people. There are poor people who want to stay with the minimum that the government is paying them.
Or mentality.
It is the mentality. There are people who want to get into government and earn public funds and use their power and public funds for their own personal gain.
Okay.
I think that is what is wrong.
That's the difference.
That's the difference, is that in the selection of the government, there must be integrity.
But someone could have integrity and then ukirushwa ndani ya pesa, when you invest in that money, power corrupts, money corrupts people, even the best of us, they say.
No, probably because if you look at the previous cabinet or the Kibaki cabinet, he selected cabinet members who at least had access to basic life necessities, or basically they were not just basic. There are people who have had opportunity in life. There were people who had wealth of their own. So their main motive was not to come and steal from the public. A few who stole, they took action. So what happens is a balance between now giving somebody who is competent but has the moral the moral integrity to lead or offer services to government and the public without getting into corruption or living a luxurious life. Because they're living, like I said, they're trying to live a luxurious life in the midst of poverty from money collected from the poor people. So
okay.
that's the problem, because somebody is poor and they are making a living, they have to pay taxes to you, so that then now you start flaunting wealth from their money. I mean, that's what the population has been having a problem with.
Okay.
I don't think they had a problem with Uhuru putting on a 2 million watch, because they knew Uhuru can still buy.
Because I remember Uhuru's watches still made the news. Like, the president's wearing an 800,000 shillings watch,
but they knew
but it
Uhuru
was not a
buy.
problem.
Even today, Uhuru can still buy it. So the population are cleverer now. They can tell your lifestyle before and after. They can take a picture of before and after, and they know it. So it's basically displaying opulence with public money. You see, they don't have a problem you having your own money and displaying that, but they have a problem.
So are you saying
there's no known business that you are doing that all of a sudden?
Let me be a devil's advocate here. President Uhuru comes from a political family.
Yes.
So it's also accurate to say that his money has been accumulated from politics and business with government. I could say that. You could say that. Right? So now, does it mean that other Kenyans don't have a chance to steal? There is no equal opportunity to accumulate wealth.
If you want to steal, don't steal public funds. If you must steal, don't, because this is public funds. People are paying taxes through their noses. We are not paying taxes so that you go and steal that money. As Gen Zs have proved, it is not going to be possible. The next government or whoever is going to come to cabinet, they must live according to their means, because everybody is watching. There's not going to be opportunity to loot public funds and walk scot-free.
Okay.
It's not going to be possible.
Okay.
But that must also be discouraged. What happens is when you get people who are greedy and who want to use public office for their self-aggrandizement, it's not possible to have a functional government, or you have government, there's too much pilfering and corruption.
Yes.
Because these people are using both parliament and probably government offices to steal funds from the public.
I'm sorry to bring this up, but ni vile sikumbuki where the reference was. You are an insider in Kibaki's government, in President Kibaki's government. Na sijui kama ni mtu alisema in passing that you are one of the people he liked. I don't know kama ni story na ideas.
No, it's because of the work. Because now what we were doing is Kibaki ensured that he appointed people who are competent to do the job, and he allowed you to do the job. That was the difference, is that we'd have occasional reports on what was happening in the youth sector, how many young people were employed, how many have borrowed youth funds, how many are unemployed, how many don't want to take the funds, how many want employment directly, and where can we get employment, including when we came up with the issue of kazi kwa vijana. It was about so many young people out there not having jobs, and President Kibaki didn't want to give them handouts. So what did he say? He said, I don't want to give young people handouts, but I want them to have a structured work so that they would be able to earn something. So they were kept busy. So because young people cannot be idle. They must channel that energy must be channeled somewhere.
Please explain this to us.
It's like floods.
Explain this to us.
Yes.
Kazi kwa vijana is handouts, but you have to earn the handout.
No, it's not handout. It was not handout. You know, we were suggesting that many young people don't have money in their pockets, as it is now.
Yes, but shika pesa lakini lima hapo.
No, but work. Because basically, there are no jobs because there is no money. But when you see money being stolen left and right, and there are no other jobs or opportunities for young people, then what do you expect? You can't have a population of so many young people who are unemployed.
Okay.
They have graduated, and they can see people who are semi-literate.
So what was
working
the end?
With the government and making billions.
It's a brilliant idea.
Yes.
Kazi kwa vijana. What is the end goal? Like, what's the strategy? Like, okay, I remember on average people used to make around 300 shillings a day.
Yes,
right?
A day. Yes.
Daily.
Yeah, daily. And they would be doing something, whether it is at the DC's office, it was nationwide. So they would be able to identify young people who would be able to work on some jobs, and then they were earning some money. The idea was to put money in people's pocket, because you cannot have a huge population of people, walking around, loitering without money in their pocket.
Was this for survival or financial freedom?
It was basically both. you are trying to give them financial freedom and also to help them have survival. Because you must eat, human being must eat, and they must be busy, because an idle mind is a devil's workshop. So that's why they've come with all these creative ways of attacking those in power. Because they are idle, they have bundles, they don't have money in their pockets. They are hopeless. They're not looking forward to getting a job or anything. The people the president put in charge of that sector failed him terribly.
So when the president came in, part of he said people need to tighten their belts. The cost of living would go high. We need to live within our means. He got rid of subsidies. What's the difference between subsidies, which is a relief, and ideas like kazi kwa vijana, which is giving people money for work that has been created?
You see, when there are some social amenities that you create, or social safety funds, because they are vulnerable members of the society, like the aged, maybe young people. So there was a social security fund for young people. It was basically ensuring that young people had something in their pockets, both from the rural to the urban centers. So that again, you discourage rural-urban migration.
Discourage rural-urban migration.
Because then if you had a huge population, then you will have so many slums in the cities. And so they will be busy and they will be earning something. In the urban centers, the pay would be a bit higher. So it was balancing the tension of an opportunity that needs exploitation and the available resources. So the subsidy is basically, to understand subsidy, is that 1 bottle of soda or 1 kg of sugar costs 200 in the market price. But because we know you don't have that money, we reduce it to sell at 100 bob, to cushion the vulnerable from not being able to buy sugar or maybe unga. That is the subsidy. It means that the government is using its resources to shield the vulnerable members of the society from starving.
So it's money from the government to the private sector, the people who produce sugar.
To reduce, to shield it can be factors of production. You reduce, it could either be taxes to reduce or to be able to pay subsidies. Instead of buying 200, you buy at 100, but we pay for you 100 to shield you, to cushion you from the inability to buy the product. These are essential products because you have to survive as a human being. It's like a dignity pack for you. We ensure that everybody is surviving.
Thank you.
So that's what subsidy does.
Thank you.
But when government had decided to remove the subsidy, and also in education, there are many parents who are not able to take their children to school. As you see now, Gen Z have been complaining about education. It's becoming expensive. And that education is the only equalizer. That is the only thing that can allow any individual, poor or rich, to be able to reach a certain level, to be able to compete with others and have opportunities like any other person. So those are key things. That's why I think President Kibaki allowed or ensured that there is free primary and secondary education. So that at ordinary level, then you'll be able to choose what to do. And also subsidized a university education. So that is very critical. And in terms of finding something for young people to do, it's very critical. Very critical that the young people must have opportunities and also have some money in their pocket or to be hopeful to get opportunities.
E point yenye you said where the rain started beating us. You know the map of this country. You sat in policy tables. When you rewind back the clock of this country, what things did we do wrong that if we had done right, we wouldn't have slums, as you've mentioned, and we would have a country of equal opportunity?
Basically, first is our politics, because we must have an egalitarian society where people have equal opportunities, an egalitarian society where we have equal opportunities for all. And that is what the National Dialogue and Reconciliation was discussing. We're saying tackle poverty and inequality. Because now the politicians want a majority of the population to be poor so that they could be bribed and vote their way.
And the politicians are the ones in the dialogue tables.
They are the one in the dialogue table. And what happened is that as soon as they discussed the issue of sharing power, they abandoned the cause. We were supposed to address again that poverty and gender and inequality. Number two, The other one they left out and is very critical because we told them we have a youth bulge and it's a tickling time bomb. What has happened is just that the bomb has started exploding.
Started?
Yes, it has started.
It has not exploded,
yet. No,
started.
not yet. It has started exploding. It's a big problem and they've named it Gen Z. It's not just Gen Z. This is something we had seen. It was a tickling time bomb. You have to address youth unemployment. As long as you have many young people out there who are unemployed, they have gone to school, they can see semi-literate people who have not gone to school are making tons of money, there would be a problem. There is inequality in income. We have poverty-stricken population who cannot have one square meal. There's a problem.
Yes.
It is a ticking time bomb. We have many slum areas, so if there is something happening in Nairobi, now what has added again is information age. That the so-called intelligence community are not able to tap into the gossiping grouping of young people. And therefore a lot can be able to happen. Okay. It is not the normal phone that you are using. There are many channels that they are able to communicate. You can easily have a rally of 200,000 people on your phone. Rather than they are waiting for somebody to go look for a permit and call a rally in Uhuru Park. These guys are already having a rally bigger than Uhuru Park.
Yes, on phone, X Spaces, yes.
Yeah, so they must also adapt to the new gossiping, tapping methods, to be able to know what is happening. Because we are changing, the dynamics are changing.
Okay.
But the main thing, it's not even to kill the young people. No, that is wrong. You must never lose human lives. It is to discuss with them. There was a dialogue before. You never implemented what's supposed to be implemented. By now, those young people would be employed. When I was chairman, we created what was called a youth employment scheme abroad, which was structured labor, not what is being done now. Of
what
taking
was that?
people.
Please explain.
Structured labor export was not what is being done now, of taking people to go for employment in the Asian countries without any structure. They'll go and get manual jobs. There are many other jobs. When we do structured labor, they would have gotten, but they closed that office.
What was it? Please break it down for someone who's never interacted with that.
Structured, YESA was Youth Employment Scheme Abroad. It was called YESA, which is one of the mandates. Yes, it is one of the mandates of the Youth Enterprise Development Fund. There was also the products that young people were using, which were supposed to be marketed by government. That whatever your hustle should be, marketed both locally and abroad so that you earn money.
Yes.
There was a fund itself to give young people. I think now they are getting less funding and they want to close it down. Because I think we used to get about $1 billion bob every year under my leadership, and I never took any salary there. I gave it to young people who are entrepreneurs. So there was the young people giving them loans. Then the number two was to train them on entrepreneurship, because not everybody knows how to do business.
Yes.
Number three was that where they were having groups and then giving me the money as a group to do business. Then there was number four, now how to look for employment for them. Now government has created now a National Employment Authority. All these things are duplication of roles. Where government pays staff in government and there are so many people being paid to do nothing. So there was YESA, which was Youth Employment Scheme Abroad. And it was supposed to be a structured labor export. Labor export, which means there was a legal officer structuring the agreements for that labor export. And you were supposed to have the job here and which kind of job. The structure was such that the country itself would earn billions, and those young people, when they are coming back, they would be able to get homes to stay in, which was supposed to now be linked with affordable housing. But now we've taken in affordable housing, but then we don't have income. So I think our priorities may be upside down for some reason.
The president is very big on negotiating with Germany to export people to go work there, talking to China, there are jobs there. We have online jobs that people can earn money in our country.
That was called BPO, but that is outsourcing. Outsourcing is where when you make a phone call to, you have a credit card or a card, a bank card.
Yes.
When you make some transaction, there will be somebody calling you from India to inquire, because you live in Westlands and you did a transaction probably in Mlolongo, to ask you whether that was you. You know, they do outsourcing. Big companies are not able to just, employ so many people to make phone calls in their countries because it's expensive. So they outsource that job to countries in Africa, and especially Kenya. They could do that a lot because our English is good. Even people who have ordinary education are very good. Our English is very good. And our human resource capital is our strength. So we would be able to set up BPOs and then employ so many young people to do that. So there's been a mismatch of the people probably the president gave the job to do, and then now he starts doing the job himself. Because it was supposed to be a structured labor export, which was to be coordinated by the Ministry of Youth and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
And this is across all jobs, wachana na the menial jobs ama the nini?
No, across. There were both professional jobs, semi-professional jobs, skilled and unskilled jobs. They're all categories. And Philippines is the best example. And
wouldn't this require an educational framework to standardize the quality of education we give, such that an engineer from Kenya can be allowed to work in Canada? We didn't have that.
Oh, yes, because we talked about that. We had a workshop tools voucher program with the World Bank, which also went. And there was an agreement to have a credit guarantee scheme again, which was supposed to be funded by USAID, to be able to guarantee those young people who don't want to borrow government money, but we can give a guarantee so that they borrow from the normal banks. And then there was that structured labor. If you look at the story of Philippines, it has exported 11 million laborers. Even if you go to countries like Dubai and Qatar, you'll find so many Filipinos. Structured. They are given first priority in jobs because they are trained, the pre-departure and all that. It is structured. Not this one-off. You know, one of these, you talk to this country, you get like this. It's supposed to be a fully fledged with a desk at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That is it. That's how structured labor is done, and he can send his own officers to Philippines to go find out how that is done.
Okay.
The other one you asked was about the training or what?
Yes. The standardized framework of education.
The standardized of education, we discussed that. We discussed why our education system is producing so many lawyers or so many teachers than we require. There's something wrong with how we do our planning. Is the Statistics Bureau and the curriculum development. We have to relook at our education system. We are now living in a skill-based economy. What type of education do we give our young people? How many lawyers do we need? How many doctors do we need? Why are we having so many doctors in tons? Why are we not able to pay them? How many policemen do we need for the population? These are calculations that are supposed to be done by our planners.
There is nothing
so that
like...
the education system we give, if we graduate 600 lawyers, we should be able to produce what we need, so that we don't have the same situation we have, that we are producing things we don't need, and we need things we don't produce.
But our health is getting poorer, our criminals are increasing. I would defend lawyers and doctors, more and more of them. But then, doesn't this take
like saying that we need to bring more we build more prisons because the criminal are increasing.
I get it.
It's not good planning.
But then, doesn't this take away the freedom of a child to do what they want? That shouldn't be the way people train for careers.
No, it should be, but it must be guided. You can do whatever you want, but in a curriculum, the education system should produce what we require and what the world requires.
So that's also another problem.
It's a big problem, because then you have so many graduates who can't get jobs. And some of them, maybe we need more doctors and we are training more nurses. Maybe we need more nurses and we are training more doctors. We need to balance. We need, as a country, we plan as a country. And I also disagree somehow that the period that we allow the leadership to
5 years.
5 years for me.
Yes.
If you wanted to develop a country, maybe we could add maybe 7 years, 2 terms, or 10 years. Most of the
7 years, 2 terms.
Most of the developed countries actually have more.
America does 4.
Yes, America does 4, but it is 200 years. 200 years.
But that has always been.
You know why? Because then we change. You see, President Kibaki started Vision 2030. Yes. What did President Uhuru do when he came in? He talked of the Big Four.
Yes.
Now we can't develop a country that way. You know,
We can. Let me give you an idea how, and
Yes.
correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
We have a framework as a country
Yes.
made by policy experts,
Yes.
such that the president who comes,
Yes.
his job is to implement
Yes.
the policy of a certain framework of development. Not everybody comes with their own ideas. Let's say if you have a one-term president, if that ever happens,
Yeah.
right? Their ideas get killed off in 5 years, and then it is the people that lose.
The reason why that happens, that people kill, you can't do that, because when the President Kibaki started on a very good footing, maybe the politics somehow got wrong, but in terms of trajectory of policy and the trajectory of our country developing
Yes.
was right. And he came up with the issue of Vision 2030, meaning that in order to grow, you must have a vision as a country. So whatever we were doing, there were pillars. So whoever, as we do our policy statements and manifestos in politics, they should be able to follow that trajectory, because we needed to be somewhere in 2030. As maybe we say by 2023 or 24, we should be a middle income economy. By,
Yes.
2027, we should be this. And then now we are a developed country by 2030. But there are sectors, we need industrialization. So what then do we do? There are pillars that we follow. If it is agriculture, what do we do? In our education pillar, what do we need?
No matter who becomes president.
No matter who. So as we run for office, whoever wants to become president must be able to look at the vision 2030 and look at how their manifesto will
Can
be able to
fit
fit
in
into that,
or add
with
value.
new ideas and add value to that to reach that destination. But what do we have? We have people promising all manner of goodies that are basically impossible to implement.
So our biggest cost as Kenyans is politics.
Our biggest cost is politics, and we have wrong politics. If we get it right, this country's trajectories, we are one of the best countries in the world. If we get everything right, it will be okay.
What does it take to reverse that? Because I'll tell you this, from my opinion, we have very smart Kenyans. It's an age of information.
Yes.
When you meet a smart Kenyan,
Yes.
it's a very smart person.
Oh, yes.
But when you meet a stupid Kenyan,
Yes, very stupid.
and we have enough supply of that, how do we turn around that? Like in this situation that we're in, what does it take to get back on track dealing with politics? Because the politicians are the ones who are deciding policy.
I think the majority of the population who are poor are reducing by day. If you look at what Gen Zs have done, it shows you like the number of stupid people are reducing drastically. We are having very enlightened population, and the next election will prove me right. The number of leaders who are sitting pretty and misusing poor and stupid people is reducing. They are going to be removed from office, almost all of them, because the number of people who are cleverer or who are sharp, who can be able to understand what's going on, are increasing. Not only Gen Zs, but they are increasing because their eyes are being opened. Some of the things we could not imagine could happen is happening now. So I think then our politics we are going to fix.
People talk about, and I'm sure you've interacted with this phrase,
Yes.
Ati, if you are going to participate in a game, it's something along the political circles.
Yes.
Make sure you have rigged it in your favor. Right? In this sense, the president cannot enjoy his presidency if parliament was independent. If the politicians were not in his favor, he may not enjoy the presidency. How true is this?
That was not supposed to be that was not supposed to happen, because the framers of the constitution made parliament independent. Actually, what we have is a parliament that the president cannot dissolve. But every time I listen, as a businessman, I listen to a politician who is a member of parliament saying that, our government, because basically he comes from the party that has taken power. That is wrong. There's nothing like a member of parliament and their government. There's nothing. And parliament is an independent institution that is supposed to check the executive. So what has happened over the years, I think now we have an appendix. Remember, majority of members of parliament who are basically an appendix of executive. So what the executive wants, they do.
Yes.
Because they're the same people who are saying the cabinet that has been removed were not competent. And they're the ones who passed those members of of cabinet. Because the vetting, they have to vet members of cabinet. If you are picked to become a cabinet member, I wish you all the best. You have to go through the members of parliament to pass your name to be now appointed as a member of the cabinet. They all knew. Some of them couldn't even explain some of the things they were going to do as cabinet secretaries, but they still passed them. So I think that is the critical area where we have a big problem. If they did what they were supposed to do, because they have their own calendar, the president cannot dissolve parliament, they have their own budget. They actually draw their salaries from the Parliamentary Service Commission. They don't need the president to draw their salary. So initially, during Moi time, the members of parliament were picking their salary from office of the president.
Oh, really?
Yes, and the president was able to dissolve parliament at will. He would dissolve parliament.
There was a time in this country,
and he was
parliament...
the one who was supposed to decide when parliament is opening. Yes.
Walikuwa wanalipwa kama mjengo.
Yes, they were paid like watu wa mjengo. You go to walk to the OP to pick your salary. So you imagine if you are criticizing the president. Now, whether you criticize the president or not, you are still going to get your salary.
Okay, so
and
now...
you are sitting allowances. So it really doesn't matter.
I didn't read the article, nor did I watch the video, but I read the title.
Yes.
Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga has sent message to the president that as he chooses the next cabinet, he should make sure that he has the interest of Mount Kenya at heart, because they are waiting for him, or he's counting on their support in 2027. How much does regional balance have to do with the quality of a cabinet?
No, it doesn't. But even, that is first that is wrong. Absolutely wrong, because the constitution talks about regional balance. It's a region. It's Mount Kenya region, it's a region, but there are many brilliant Kenyans who come from Mount Kenya, very educated, who are capable, have the capacity to become cabinet secretary.
Yes.
It should be at the behest of the president to choose whoever he wants. It does not need to be reminded by anybody from Mount Kenya. All he has to do is regional balance, which is in the constitution. It does not say ethnic, but it says regional balance.
Regional balance.
Regional balance in setting up the cabinet, so that basically the whole country is represented. Because the president is the symbol of national unity.
Yes.
Yeah, because when we remove the president as a symbol of national unity, then there should be a procedure of removing him, so that the constitutional checks and balances kicks in. And remove him through parliament, then now his deputy becomes the president. If we remove the deputy now, the same way, the National Assembly Speaker becomes the president. If you remove the Speaker, the Chief Justice. So that's how the constitutional framers made it.
Okay.
Like I told you, they didn't tell us if we exercise our powers, which we have under the Constitution, Article 1, to exercise our powers directly. They didn't tell us now, how does that work out? What happens? The other articles of the Constitution remains, it's rendered irrelevant.
Okay.
The lawyers won't tell you that though, because they didn't tell us. Because if you look at the Constitution we borrowed from the US, the vice president, who is now the deputy president, becomes now the president of the Senate. Because the Senate now is used also to stamp the authority when they are now removing the president.
Okay.
They vote, I think their vote is the last vote to remove the president.
Then what does power sharing mean? Because I know you have inside information in terms of, like, when people sit for cabinet, they split the government. Kugawana serikali. Like,
that's bad manners. That's bad manners of our politics, because it shouldn't be that. There shouldn't be power sharing. Our constitution actually created the office of the president, and that was a joint ticket, which means you choose somebody you can be able to work with for the period of the time that you'll be elected into the office. So there was no power sharing.
These are seats
there
for
was
the deputy president.
There's absolutely one president and one deputy president. And you saw some of the elements where the president was having a press conference and the deputy has another one. That should never happen in a democracy. It is not acceptable, because it's one ticket. It's a presidency. So there is only one government, headed by the head of state and head of government. That's how structured our democracy. So it should be, that's political bad manners which we have here, where people share those seats,
That shouldn't be the case.
It shouldn't be the case. The president,
but ideally for political goodwill?
Political goodwill, that's why we remove the cabinet secretaries from the members of parliament. because now we have members of parliament representing all constituencies across the country. But for purposes of regional balance, it was supposed basically to have a face of the country. But it was not supposed to be. It's political bad manners, which we've allowed for a long time, and it should end.
Mtuwetu should stop at your parliamentary representative.
It should. And I think that's what the Gen Zs are saying. That this Mtuwetu is what is spoiling the country, because then you give him a job, he thinks that he owes you Mtuwakwao allegiance. Even the oath of allegiance is also, members of parliament say to the country, and then to the president. Not the initially, we used to swear our allegiance to the president.
So when the president appoints a cabinet secretary, once you assume office, you
serve the whole country.
Not the president?
No, not the presidency. But you serve at the behest of the president because he's the appointing authority. But he gives you the job to help him run the country, the whole country. There's no cabinet secretary for Mombasa or one cabinet secretary for Mount Kenya. Absolute nonsense. It should be a cabinet secretary for the Republic of Kenya. So you give service to the whole republic.
This, I believe you are also very well placed to answer for us. Kenyans have long believed that we have no bearing in choosing who becomes president. In fact, there's a theory that has popped up that outside forces have so much to do with who becomes president in Kenya. And I was almost tempted to believe a theory that there's a place in London where people who are running for president, the top runners, the front runners, go to give a speech for vetting or like an audition for them to become president.
No, that's gossip. Just gossip. You know, at the end of the day, our democracy is the people electing their own representatives. That is what it says, a government of the people, from the people, by the people, and for the people. So it's a democracy. So basically, other factors may come in. 2012, when we were electing, when Uhuru and Ruto came in, actually the US told us choices have consequences, but the public voted for the duo. So, but there could be factors, which means a confirmation of every foreign country has interest. That's why they have their diplomats here, and they have to serve their own interest. So it's not strange. However, it is wrong for a president of a country like Kenya now to serve the interests of foreigners. It is just bad political manners to serve the foreign interests instead of serving your population interests. It should go without saying. So, but there will always be foreign interests.
But don't you need the foreign
support? I think
support?
Probably our constitution also restricts the financing of our political parties from foreign funders. It does in law. It is in law. So that could be a disqualification if you are receiving funding from foreign powers to run for election.
Do we follow the law?
We should follow the law. And I think that is what Gen Zs are saying, that we are going to follow the law. That you must have our interests, and there should be no foreign interference in our political affairs. And the running of the nation. Those are rumor mongering. They say, it is good to say nice things that people can prove. Charterhouse just invites people who are running for elections who look like they have real chances to just get to know. It's foreign powers also want to know what is your thinking. What are you likely? What are the likely policies that you'll be able to implement? Does it affect probably their countries? How would your presidency stand with their foreign policies and their foreign policy interests? Because they're all countries, even Kenya, we have interest in who becomes the president of Uganda or who becomes the president of Tanzania or Rwanda for our own purposes. But we may be accused of interfering. Some interfere because the IMF and World Bank, like we've said before, are interfering with our microeconomics policy. They have given us a loan. They are like a bank that has given you a loan. And they have interest on who you are employing or how you are running your business. They want to know whether they will get back their money or not. So it's not strange. But the experience is that every country that had had to listen to IMF and World Bank on macro and economic policies and the running of the country had had to have problems with the population. Because they're basically telling you to charge your clients more. It's like a bank telling you have to charge your clients more money so that you are able to meet the debt repayment amount.
Okay.
Yes.
So even if the money that gets lent to the country is put to good use, right?
Yeah.
It's put to good use. People would still feel the pain of funding from the IMF and World Bank.
Because the problem of debt issue now, debt ratio to our GDP.
Yes.
The problem is that we got into debt. And I think the president never explained this, and the cabinet. I mean, they took Kenyans for granted. We would just tax them, and they would just allow to be taxed. And that's how they have been doing it anyway, because otherwise we'll pass it, because we have members of parliament, we are a group of us, and we have the numbers, so we'll pass it and nothing will happen. Look at how Kibaki did it. Kibaki also started taxing people more. But what did he do? He first started with educating the population. Kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea.
Yes. Yes.
And then he told us he will give us free education, and he gave us free education. He told us he will reduce corruption. He reduced the corruption. He told us that he would get involved in big projects.
Yes.
I mean, like road construction and building of bigger infrastructure in the country to allow the country to grow. We could see growth. We could see roads being built. We could see there was free primary education where the kids were not paying school fees. So it allowed the citizenry could see where their money was going.
Yes.
It is normal. It's like I tell you, bring 100,000, and then I'll use it well, and then you start seeing me taking alcohol or going on holiday with your money. You get a reason to worry. So I think the presidency and probably the cabinet and the members of parliament, they took the population for granted. That we did it last year, we will still do it. An increase, as IMF is saying, we increase. Just the same way I've told you, a bank and your business, they could tell you, increase the price of your water, of your sodas, and then the people who buy from you can say, now we are not buying from your shop. It's the same thing. So there's a revolt. So people are saying, the president said for every 10 shillings he collects, he uses 7 bob for paying debts.
Yes.
And you see, this is a debt that when he was deputy president, he was there. So he's part of that problem. But now, you see, if you tell me that most of the money I'm collecting, I'm now just paying debts and not doing anything that you can see, because that's the flip side of it. Because if he takes 10 bob and he pays 7 bob, he pays to
the debt,
then maybe recurrent expenditure, then there is nothing really he can do, and the country will stagnate. That means the population will not see what you are paying. They will only hear what you are saying. You are paying debts.
Yes.
Which again, he has said needs to be auditing. You've heard about how the debt, what do you call it? We have a consolidated fund where all government funds go. You've also heard how some laws were changed so that some money
can bypass that.
Was not reaching. Those are the issues. The issues of accountability, which also the first national dialogue also talked about. And we have institutions in the country that ensures those accountability, including the Auditor General's office, who tells us every year how much money we collected, how much we have spent, how we spent it, how much money was misallocated, how much money was misappropriated. And then now action is supposed to be taken by other institutions of government, like the Anti-Corruption Commission, the ESCC, the Director of Criminal Investigation. So these are institutions of governance. But the biggest problem has been corruption, because then we collect money, but you can see the lifestyle of people in government.
Can we deal with that? Because even in President Kibaki's government,
yes.
I read a dossier that John Githongo was actually put in government because of the image of Transparency International, so that the donor community can begin trusting the government and they promise that they're going to fight corruption. Then he goes in and starts investigating the corruption in government, and Anglo-leasing comes about. So according to the piece I was reading, he investigates and even records the people who are involved in Anglo-leasing. When he takes the recording to the president, and it was like a movie, because at some point they are sitting in that conversation, and as he's recording, the recorded voices starts to play back. And he almost gets caught. So he takes this recording after recording the culprits, known cabinet ministers, and then he takes it to the president, only to find that apparently the president knows, or somehow is a sponsor for that. Does it mean Kenya and corruption is inseparable?
No, I doubt if the president knew, and if he knew, I don't know. But I know that he took action that time.
But
and
Gidongo
they
had to run away.
That was his own decision to run away, because then you are fighting powerful people. It is only normal that you have to run away because you don't know what they would do to you. But I know that President Kibaki took action then. There's always been corruption in all these governments.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a victim of a person who was working for government trying to fight corruption. And I lost my job because I was fighting corruption. I was giving money to the youth and I was told this money is not supposed to go to the youth. You're supposed to keep the money. And the cabinet minister is known. There was a NSIS scandal. So it is known. So there's always people in government who are corrupt.
How do you fight the temptation?
There will never be a government without people who are corrupt.
People assume for a government office, you have to bite something. Even in our last conversation, I think I had other people
I had
talking
different
about
issues when people were telling me, you left office now, you didn't live with anything.
How did you fight the temptation to bite something? Kidogo tu ile mfuko tu pocket money.
My motivation was to see that young people would do well. So I think the motivation and the mindset is to do well and live a happier and a peaceful life after government. Mm-hmm. Because what happens is people will tell you, oh, this is government money. I say, but it's people, it's human beings. It's nothing like government money. This money belongs to the public. And so I want to leave government and live peacefully outside, not to be in trouble with the people. So I would rather live within my means and leave government, whether I become broke after leaving government and work hard for my own money. Because then I'll live a peaceful life. If I find somebody coming to my gate, it's either a guy from Kenya Power or somebody from Nairobi Water. So I want to live a peaceful life. But there are some people whose conscience is wired up to be corrupt in government. And they think that the best way to earn a living is to steal from government. But also the previous population, apart from the Gen Z, had made it easier for people to steal from government. Because you find they steal from government and then end up being a governor again. They end up being a senator or a member of parliament, and they stole in government and they know. And they call them their thief. But I think that now is changing with the Gen Z. So the population is getting cleverer, more awareness is taking place, the information age has become of age. So everybody has access to a mobile phone and they can record what is happening and they pursue you. Like they say, they'll greet you.
Everybody takes individual responsibility.
Yes, and that's how it's supposed to be. Even in our new constitution, it's individual responsibility. Even for the police officer who kills an innocent civilian who is demonstrating
individual responsibility.
Or picketing, there is individual responsibility because there's nothing like orders from above. And the constitution says that those orders should be in writing. So you can't cite that I received orders from above to kill a protester or that. They should take personal responsibility. And if, like now, I can see people are able to identify the policeman who killed so and so and that, they will be pursued. And the law allows you also to take somebody to court for private prosecution if the government fails to do so. So they are not in a safe spot. It will not be business as usual to be killing innocent people and dumping their bodies. It will not work now. The country is changing and it's changing fast. Like they say, the syllabus is being covered very quickly. And it's changing very rapidly.
And you've been in these corridors for so long. And as a businessman, I believe, and I hope, please allow me to say this in public, you play in the leagues yenye tulisema last time, you play with the big boys. Yenye unaweza shika mtu, useme enda ukue MP, and you support them.
Yes, I can.
How do these deals work?
That.
Yes, how do you get paid back?
No, you don't get paid because now either you do it to have good leaders. I would like to do that in 2027. I would like to support a few members of parliament who are young, who have progressive ideas, and I would support them to become members of parliament because I want something good for my country.
And doesn't this make them indebted to you? Like when you have your agenda, it's very easy to push that. See, that's how deep state works.
No, not necessarily. I mean, you agree. I agree. I just want the goodness of a country, something good for my country. But I would not, hold them at ransom to be able to push my agenda. I want to do clean business. As a matter of fact, I do not want to be a cabinet secretary in Kenyan government. Neither do I want to be a member of parliament. I do not want to get involved in politics. I am happy in my business. I have no intention whatsoever to get engaged in those politics of members of parliament.
And in your being in the areas for some time,
yes.
Again, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
You have met the president.
Yes,
the current president.
Yes,
you have interacted with him.
Yes, I have.
Right?
Yes, I have.
Number one, there was a time he was branded with the image of corruption.
Yes.
Then I find a conflicting report that President Kibaki liked him so much, not to defend him.
Yes.
President Kibaki liked him so much because of his forward-thinkingness, his ideas and stuff.
Yeah.
Is there truth to that? When he was agriculture minister?
I don't know, because the problem is when he was agriculture minister, he was apparently sacked for corruption, but he was also returned by President Kibaki.
Exactly.
So it means that there was politics at play.
Yes.
I do not know the facts.
Yes.
But I do not know about the facts of that, because there seemed to have been a political problem rather than the corruption accusation. So I cannot say for sure that there is a body which is called Ethics and Anti-Corruption.
Okay.
EACC, whose responsibility is to know who is corrupt and take them to court and charge them through a court of law. So those are political. I don't know whether he has been corrupt, whether he has not been corrupt. It is not for me.
It has not been proven.
Yes.
In which case, he got into office on the premise of good ideas that he had, and good ideas that people bought, and he was voted in by the majority. Now that we have established.
I don't even think that Kenyans before the previous elections were voting for people. I doubt, because they would not be up in arms now to want to remove a president. They voted for President Ruto. He was voted in. Yes. And I don't think he was voted because he was corrupt or he was not corrupt. Or he had very good ideas. No, I think and for a long time, and that has been the problem with our politics. We vote against something or somebody. It could be wrong or right, but we, as a population, we have a hard mentality. We can decide that this time it's for Gen Zs, and if you are not Gen Zs, we are not electing you, and we move like that. And it doesn't matter who you elect. So then later we ask ourselves, who is this we elected? Or there's something wrong, or you give us wrong promises or unachievable promises, but we buy into it.
Because we are not voting for you, we are voting against someone else.
Yes, so where I stand, and that's what I've been seeing happening.
Yes.
Even members of parliament, they find they elect somebody who is basically a useless fellow, who have no good policies, means nothing, stands for nothing. But they elect him because they hate the other person. And so they are not electing the person, they are voting against the other
person.
And the day we will stop doing that, we will get good leaders. We will vote leaders based on what they stand for. Most of all these leaders, if you ask them, what do you really stand for?
They don't have.
Yes,
anything.
We had leaders like Mandela who said, I believe in a South Africa that believes in human rights, an egalitarian society that stands for equality for all. It is a South Africa that I want to live for, and if need be, I am ready to die for. Which politician in Kenya have you heard saying, this is what I stand for, and I'm willing not to be elected?
Oh, willing not to be elected. I thought die for. I've heard Baba say
or die for.
I've heard Baba say a few times that he will be on the front line. He's willing to die. He's willing to.
No, he has never said he's willing to die, but Baba has done his bit. I mean, what he has done for this country in terms of the freedoms we enjoy today, including having this interview here, is because of him. He has sacrificed a lot for the country. I mean, the things he has done for this country to be where we are, where we enjoy all these freedoms, is because of him. And he has been jailed for it. He has done so much that you cannot begin to imagine.
And did he get somewhere that he was carried away by the crowd?
I have no idea, because if he plays to the crowd, that's what politicians do. They play to the gallery and to the crowd, and that's what they do. I think because they need that support.
This thing that he came up with dialogue, alafu akasalimiwa kidogo, and then he retracted back.
No, I doubt, because if you remember, I think he was talking about dialogue. And they had refused that there was not going to be a dialogue. You remember? They say they will not dialogue with the opposition. There must be opposition and government must be government. And
That was the government saying.
Nusumukati, you don't remember? When they were doing their demonstration.
Yes,
their own demonstration. The
Yes.
opposition, they were told that there is no dialogue.
Okay.
And that
they said they were not interested.
They said, the government said there was not going to be a dialogue.
And then
opposition must be opposition, government must be government.
And then we had the NADCO report. NADCO was dialogue.
Yes, NADCO now became dialogue. No, because they say they have to reconstitute. They have to reconstitute a new IEBC because the other commissioners who were there were removed through constitutional means. They set up an init that removed them.
Okay.
A legal way of removing them, so there are no commissioners. And the other 3 commissioners, their terms are expired. So we must have a commission.
Or the procedures.
I don't know what types of politics Baba plays or what he does not play. But one thing I know, he has fought for the country to have the freedom we enjoy today. Like I'm telling you, including what I'm enjoying today, to say whatever I want to say about anybody I want to talk about without fearing the consequences.
Okay.
It is as a result for him. As to how he conducts his politics from now on and onwards, I have no idea. I don't advise him. I don't belong to his party.
Okay.
And I don't know what he's up to, and that is up to him and the people who advise him.
Okay. The Youth Fund had very brilliant ideas. You've explained some of them, the concepts that you had.
Yes.
Do you think the youth unemployment, if the government properly funded the Youth Fund and implemented ideas that are in place, can that change youth unemployment?
You see, there are many factors. It's not just the Youth Fund. To be able to address unemployment means that you have to create a conducive environment for businesses to prosper. That includes the policies on taxation and on the issues of creating zones and giving some incentives for businesses and investors for foreign direct investments.
Yes.
So that now creates an enabling environment for people to come from outside and invest in our country. And also for local business people to set up businesses and factories and the industries to be able to employ people. So there could be tax incentives, there could be some rebates, tax rebates, there could be so many other incentives because you must incentivized the private sector and be able to allow them to expand the industries to create employment.
And I'm assuming the president, in his wisdom and in the position he holds, he knows all that.
Yes, he does. And in that, he needs people to help him to implement his policies. You know, as a head of state, he stands as a national symbol, the symbol of national unity. And then he has his cabinet, he has his permanent secretaries, and he has a whole team of his government and the bureaucrats to help him to be able to implement his policies. I think they are good. Some of them needs to be tempered a bit, but the implementation has been poor. I think for the last 2 years, and Kenya is also a very bad country in terms of politics, that you enter office, the first year is basically politics. And even the second year, like now, the last 2 years has been politics. Then even the last 2 years.
Strategizing for re-election.
For re-election. So basically, we waste our 5 years.
Then what does it take to be president?
See, it takes money. You have to garner 25% in out of the half of the 47 counties, and then have a 50+1 to become a president.
But Sasa now, that is as per the constitution.
Yes.
But the money it takes to be president, it cannot be personal funds.
It can't, it can't. And it needs, I think in Kenya, you need a minimum of 4 billion. To become the president. Yes, you need a minimum of 4 billion.
And no one will give
and
you.
And every year you have 3 billion as a confidential vote. So
how do you, so when you become president, it will be easier to return the money from wherever you took it from?
I think so. I think so. Because if you give me confidential vote of 3 billion, even the National Security Intelligence, theirs is not audited also.
So I think the entire security budget is not audited?
No, there are some that are audited.
The Ministry of Interior?
No. There are some which are audited. But some are not, because now we don't want any other country to know how many bullets we bought, how many guns we bought. which warships we bought. You know, that becomes then, if they are planning to fight with us, they know, see, last year they bought four warships.
Yes.
Then they used to, the other budget, they bought 1 or 2. Now, when they are preparing to go to war with us, especially the budget for defense, it is not right to audit, because sometimes, and they also have those, you know...
they don't even have, but they have their own internal audit mechanism.
Yeah, they have their own internal, but it should not, some are not made public, because now, also the reason why they were saying they give the reason why they give the president confidential vote is that because the president may decide to activate some activities in the interest of the nation, that we should not tell the public what it was about.
Okay. Is this confirmation that, okay, I saw something, that there's a kill squad, and sasa najua utaniruka, but there's a kill squad that operates directly at State House. Like, let me not call it a kill squad, like a security team that reports directly to the president, and that's part of the budget here.
No, the president has a right to form any other, because he's the head of government and state, and also is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. There could be a threat to state, and he could form any squad or any group or any subcommittee of cabinet or anything on the interests of the nation. And probably he does not need to disclose to the nation or to the public.
That's where the real power is. That's where the
real power is. Of course, that is where the real power is. The presidency, that is where the real power is. And that's why we allow him. He's a symbol of national unity. That there could be threats to the nation that he does not. There's so many threats that happen to this nation that the president doesn't come on TV to tell you that last week we received a threat from this neighboring country or from this group of people.
In which case,
yes,
in what is happening in the country now, is Gen Z a threat to national security?
I think they are. In terms of what you are saying, in terms of what you said, when there is chaos, there are some people who benefit. Because they become a threat when they want to threaten the unity of the state, which means the state can become ungovernable. And the Gen Z have the capacity to make the state ungovernable. In the sense of
And there's a point of no return.
There is a point of no return, and that's why I was telling you, you are leaderless, you are tribeless, and you are fearless. So which means you can actually throw out a president, a sitting head of state, without following the constitutional order, but by going through the Article 1, where you are saying the sovereign power belongs to the people. Yes. But what happens when that happens? What's the flip side of it?
When the people take power now.
Yes. How do they now exercise power? All of us, we've taken power. Now, how do we exercise that power? Which means the military, who are the custodian, they are subordinate to the civilian authority, but now, by law, they are supposed to secure our borders and secure the state. You see, now government is gone. Now we have a state with the boundaries. So the military now secures our boundaries and ensures that now there is law and order. Now, what they will do
law and order, and there is no constitution. Where is this
law? No, they will create law and order, because now you can't sleep in your house. Somebody can actually come and remove you from house and sleep in your bed.
And say that it is his house.
Yes, what will you do? Because there is no law. So the first thing they do, because there is no constitutional order, I've said law and order, not constitutional order. Now, they will take power. When they take power, it is unconstitutional. So they will have to suspend the constitution, the police become civilian. So what will happen? The very fundamental rights you use to picket, to demonstrate, and to petition authorities and cost the president to leave power is now you immediately relinquish that right. You cannot demonstrate now. See, now you are finished. And now the president is gone, the government is not there.
Yes.
Now what happens now? You relinquish the military when they take over you, that privilege, now it becomes a privilege.
So
they can say don't to dusk.
What's to say that the Gen Z will listen to the military?
They have no choice, my friend. You know, it is not, this one is not civilian authority. You see, they have a constitutional...
So they would commit genocide on the country they are supposed to protect.
Who?
The military. Yes.
No, let me ask you now. You've removed the civilian authority. That's the constitutional. The constitution gives you power to demonstrate, to picket, and to remove whoever you want. By dint of Article 1, where you have decided now, you are now exercising your power directly. You see, the military will not allow you to now exercise. You need a gun. You need to enforce law and order. How do you enforce law and order? Assume the president has left State House.
They are the ones who fired the police. The police have no problem.
No, the military cannot work with the police. When they take over, they will tell the police to become civilian. That's how it happens world over.
So when
they become civilians, they remove their clothes and hand over their guns to the military.
When now military brings about now a civilian government again. So
that
police officers have to apply again. They have to
recruit. Yes, they will recruit. Yes, there will be no judiciary. They will have created. The military has a
martial law.
Yes, they have their own military
system,
prosecution system.
Yes.
Yes. So they have the chief legal, who is the director of military prosecutions. They will prosecute you in a military court.
So we all become
a court martial. Yes, it's martial law. Now it is military. You work according to their... If he's in uniform, you will follow the orders now. They will put roadblocks and they will collect taxes the way. There will be no judiciary. They have their own judiciary. They'll have their own military prosecution system. That's how it works. I'm telling you the reality now.
And they have the capacity to handle 53 million Kenyans.
Doesn't matter. With a gun, you can. That is why you have a gun. You can handle so many people. They will now. You see now, what you are not understanding is that the moment you remove civilian rule, you see by dint of that constitution, they suspend the constitution. So now there will be nothing like you are killing me and it is my right. It is not your right.
Ndio nilikuuliza, the KDF who people celebrated on the streets when they showed up.
Yes.
The KDF that was working with Gen Z.
Yes.
Minus the constitution, they are not your friends.
No, they are not. How? It is they are working with you because you are enjoying your constitutional right. To demonstrate, to picket.
They are supporting you in your constitutional right.
Your constitutional right. By dint of now exercising your sovereignty directly and removing the civilian authority, because by law they are subordinate to the civilian authority. They are supporting. That is why the president is their commander-in-chief. So they are now supporting the civilian authority. The moment you remove the civilian authority by dint of Article 1, where the people shall.
Underline shall.
Yes, shall, which is mandatory. Now you are exercising your powers directly. If you exercise through elected representative, that's where there will be legislature, there will be judiciary, there will be the executive. Now by dint of that, now other acts of parliament, those things become irrelevant. Because now you are exercising power directly. They are talking about county assembly, the People's Assembly. How are you going to enforce now order, law and order?
So the People's
because
Assembly
you must govern.
The so-called Akinanuru Okanga, that's the People's Assembly? Or
those no, you can form People's Assembly, maybe the constituency, county levels, those things. But now how are you going to enforce law and order? The constitutional makers, the framers of our constitution didn't tell us exactly what really happens now.
So is that something that needs to be structured now that it has
come up? Because now we are staring at a precipice. Suppose Gen Zs or whoever, not Gen Zs, everybody, Kenyans the way we are now, we are supporting Gen Zs and everybody. Now we decide we don't want the president. Rightly so, because the constitution allows us to do so. So then we say we don't want the president, and the constitution under Article 1 says the sovereign power belongs to the people. So now we are exercising it directly.
Because I am His Excellency now.
Yes, because everybody, and we are leaderless. Your Excellency, I'm Excellency, everybody is Excellency.
Yes.
There is no cabinet, there is no members of parliament, there is no judiciary.
Everybody is Mheshimiwa.
Everybody is Mheshimiwa and everybody is His Excellency.
Yes.
So that is chaos, and power abhors vacuum. So most likely the people who will take power are the military, and the military can only take power and suspend the constitution. The first thing they do, and then tell the police wakuwe kama raia.
So the best shot for Kenyans right now is the president to turn the situation around?
Yes, put pressure on him to turn the situation. But if you want to remove him, then recall members of parliament, get new members, impeach him. In which case now Rigiji becomes the president. If you don't want Rigiji, you remove him. The Speaker of National Assembly, Wetangula, becomes the president.
So Kenyans, as the Kenyans who are singing Ruto must go, have either the choice of President Rigiji or Honor His Excellency Moses Wetangula.
Or the Chief Justice Martha Koome. Those are the choices they have. The flip side of it is that they can actually remove him from power by exercising Article 1 of our Constitution, where it says now it belongs to us. We can either exercise it directly or through elected representative. Now we say we don't want elected representative. Hatuwataki members of parliament. Sasa ni sisi tunaongoza nchi.
Kwangu ni parliament.
Hapa you can decide here, hapa kwangu ndio bunge. Sasa ni sisi tunaongoza, ni sisi viongozi, and we are leaderless. We are fearless. Yes.
And that means all structures crumble, school system, nini kila kitu goes.
No, it will be run by the military because they have some structures, but they are subordinate to civilian authority. But when you throw out, and they can tell you, I think we'll need 10 years to restore back democracy.
Oh, they are
or
the 20
years.
Hakuna year 5 years that we choose.
No, they've suspended. The constitution is the one that says we do election after every 5 years. Now there is no constitution. Constitution is a social contract between the governed and the governors, the people governing and the governed. And we have a good constitution that allows the population to do everything except what it tells them not to do. And it does not allow leaders to do anything except what it tells them to do.
Miguna is in Canada.
Yes.
Speaking revolution.
Yes.
I have a problem with this because he writes in his book that when chaos erupts in a country, when people lose the so-called structures, it can take after 50 years before things come back to normal.
Oh yes, it will take 50. This freedom we enjoyed. Because let me ask you, if there is no constitution, there is no constitutional right to information. They can switch off the Safaricom, and then they switch off Airtel, everything. And then now they say they are going to bring another mobile, and then you subscribe to. Or they'll put fixed telephone.
There is no...
what will you do? Or they'll give people walkie-talkies to go and pick, and then you can talk. What will you do? The constitution has been suspended, so now we don't have any constitution. You don't have a right to picket, neither do you have a right to elect the leaders you want. Until now they set up, they can say they are transition authority. After 5 years or 10 or 20, they can return to civilian rule.
And this also has some catches to it, because if you return to civilian rule and you have broken some rights and stuff, they may come after you. Again, the concept of individual responsibility.
Yes. But now the military, now there is no law that they've broken. They shall have suspended the constitution.
We are tumeenda mbali. So Uganda is such a government.
Yes.
Uganda is such a government.
Because they went through war, Now why Uganda is different? I hear Kenyans saying that after they finish here, they go to Uganda. Those guys fought. There was every month, there was a new president. There was Lule, then after 1 month, Obote 1, Obote 2. They even had a president who was Obote 1, Obote 2. They had Idi Amin. After Idi Amin, what did he say? The president had traveled abroad, and then he said that he has taken over. The people have told him to take over. He has suspended. He ruled with iron fist.
Yes.
Expelled all the Asians. He did all manner of things after him.
Okay.
Somebody else, Lule, there was who, they all manner. They had like about 7 presidents. Like every month, some of them took 2 weeks. So in the minds of Ugandans, I think they still remember how the leadership, the military rule was. So this is a bit of semblance of democracy. They are okay, probably. Wakosawa, probably they are saying, hey, the other one was so bad.
We'd rather enjoy the peace we have right now.
A little bit this one.
The same for Rwanda?
The same for Rwanda. Kenya, we have never reached an armed conflict. That's the beauty of Kenya. We've had our misfortunes, we've had political skirmishes, we've had political differences, we've had political violence, but we have never reached a point where our political differences and skirmishes and violence reached where the population has armed conflict.
And our biggest issue right now is people don't trust the president's word. And from people I have spoken to, people let me say I respect, they say that some of the pronouncements the president makes, he gets genuine information that, hey, Facebook will be monetized. You've spoken to the boss, he confirms. He comes, says, oh, we'll do this, and that. He comes, he gets commitment, legit commitments from the people he should get commitments to. And then he makes the pronouncement, it doesn't happen. Is this sabotage?
I have no idea. I don't know. I mean, one, the president's word must mean something. That is the first thing. Even in business, when you're doing business, your word should mean something. So I think it's up to him and the people who handle his communication,
should learn.
who should be able to tell him what to say, when to say, and why to say what he's saying. I mean, that's up to him, and his communication handler should be able to help him do that.
Okay.
Yeah, because a president's word is a final word. It must mean something. If it doesn't mean something, there's a problem, because he can say tomorrow is a holiday and it will be a holiday, because his word means something. It carries so much. It's a symbol of national unity. It gives hope to the population, and we expect that he unites the nation. That's the role. And our constitution says he shall be the symbol of national unity. Okay. So his word should mean something.
Thank you.
When he calls a press conference, what he says, his word, it's so heavy, it carries something, it means something. Okay. So when you hear a huge chunk of a population say they don't trust him, that they must work on.
If he works on that?
Yes, he must work on that. If I were him, I would say, I meant well, I wanted to do well. He means I meant well. I wanted to grow this country. This is what I wanted, this for extra taxes to grow the country. It seems practically impossible. I'm not able to do it. I am sorry. I have to relook at how to do things.
That's enough to solve this.
Yes, that is enough, because
and he
I think
come
there's expectation.
Weak.
No, weak is the symbol of national unity. If it unifies the nation, why not? I mean, because there is too much expectation. If you realize, majority of people who are now against him are the people who elected him.
Yeah.
They believed so much in him. He's a hangdog on every word he spoke. Yes. So I think it's the high time. He just needs to be honest with them. He say, I wanted to collect more funds. I wanted to get the country out of debt. Okay. Because then this debt burden would just be passed on to you, the Gen Z, and you will still have to pay. I wanted to get extra taxes to pay off this debt so that you will remain free. It seems impossible. Okay. I have tried my level best. The policies I wanted to implement are not possible now, given the economic situation prevailing in the country. I'd got my mind fixed on how to fix this country. It seems practically impossible. I need your goodwill. I am sorry for what has happened, but going forward, I will fix the country. And I will work with new people, give me new ideas to fix the country. I think that's what he needs to say. As it is now, things are bad. There's little believability in government, and he needs to restore that confidence in his government. I think first step the first step by dissolving cabinet, I think that was a step in the right direction. And he said he will look for new people to help him run his government. We want to wish him all the best. Okay. To pick the best team. The country is not lacking talent. There are so many Kenyans out there, both in the diaspora and locally here, who are able to help him run his government, and to create an enabling environment for business to prosper, to inject confidence into the capital markets, so that direct foreign investment will come into the country and we develop our country. Everybody wants a stable country. Nobody wants a chaotic country, a dysfunctional government, a dysfunctional country. We also hope that his deputy will agree to work with him, and if he's not willing to work with him, he should be able to call it quits. He should be able to resign and say, like Jaramogi said.
But he was the previous president's deputy, and he had the same thing. He was told the same thing. He either work with the president or resign. He never resigned. And
I mean, that's different now. He's president.
That's karma.
He can feel he should now be. He's now. I don't know what you call it. It could be, but now he's president. Yes. He has a deputy. So I think the country needs to move forward. Okay. And we need unity of purpose for government. The pressure must be sustained by Gen Zs, but we must not sustain it to a level where we break the country. Because I can assure you, for free, we must sustain this pressure to a level where the changes we want must be done, because we need a country where there's accountability and transparency, and that public servants work for us, not for themselves.
Yes.
But as we do that, we are careful that we don't break it beyond the breaking point, so that then we go back to where our grandfathers were, where the laws were the Chief's Act.
Yes.
Where they would not even, they would collect they would take your land or do whatever they want.
Yes.
I mean, we must never get there. But I believe in Gen Z's 120%. I think they're doing a good job. We must encourage them, but we must tell them as well that let us push to a level where we don't get back to where we came from.
Okay.
But let us push enough. Let's put more pressure to ensure we get a good country and good leadership from our leadership.
As long as they know when to stop.
They must know when to stop. Everything must have its limits. Even sleep, you can't sleep for 10 days. There must be a limit.
Sawa. Asante sana. Thank you for actually sharing more than we had planned for this conversation.
Thank you.
Always good vibes. Asante, and I trust our audience will enjoy this conversation as I have.